Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. This week, the U.S. and China formally joined the Paris Global Agreement. The Paris deal is the world's first comprehensive climate agreement and will only come into force legally after being ratified by at least 55 countries, which together produce 55% of global carbon emissions. We also re-examine the chaos in Gabon after election results show incumbent President Ali Bongo won. Libreville has been thrown into chaos for days. The national parliament set ablaze. Protesters have clashed with security forces, and as far as we know, at least 5 people have been killed in the clashes, while more than 1,000 more have been arrested. That's a rundown of our program. We'll be right back after a quick check on other discussions in diplomatic circles. Australia's Foreign Minister Julie Bishop on Sunday met with senior Israeli leaders in Jerusalem for a 2-day official visit. The Foreign Minister is in Israel to promote bilateral cooperation, the development of a treaty on innovation, including a landing pad in Tel Aviv, and to discuss regional security and the Middle East peace process. Reaffirming Australia's absolute enduring commitment to the State of Israel, Ms. Bishop invited the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to visit Australia next year in what will be his first official visit as Prime Minister.
That our relationship has the potential to enter into new fields of endeavour, particularly in innovation, where Israel is a world leader. We are delighted that our new innovation agenda adopted by the Australian government and embraced by the Australian people through the last election will see a landing pad in Tel Aviv, which I'll visit tomorrow, which shows that Australia has much to learn from Israel in the area of science, research and innovation, but we have much to learn from each other.
At least 13,000 people attended a rally in Paris on Sunday to protest against what they say is a crime wave targeting the Chinese community in France. The protests come after a Chinese textile designer died after being mugged last month. Demonstrators waving French flags and sporting T-shirts printed with the slogans "Stop Violence, Muggings, Insecurity," and signs reading "Liberty, Equality, Fraternity, what's the point without security?" marched from the Place de République Square to Bastille in eastern Paris, asking for more police protection. Finally, U.S. President Barack Obama says UK Prime Minister Theresa May was a steady influence during a time of transition and that the United States had every intention of ensuring the U.S.-Britain relationship continues post-Brexit.
I'm glad that Theresa and I could meet early in her tenure. The Prime Minister continues to be a steady influence during a time of transition. It was a wide-ranging conversation, but it began with the basic premise that even as the UK pursues an orderly exit from the EU, together we reaffirm the very special relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom.
He said this at a news conference in the Chinese city of Hangzhou. Mr. Obama also said the United States would continue to work with the UK on cyber threats and the Islamic State, as well as Ukraine. Welcome back. It's big news that made headlines this weekend. U.S. President Barack Obama said at the G20 summit in the city of Hangzhou, China, after he and the Chinese President Xi Jinping formally joined the Paris Global Climate Deal, that history will judge today's efforts as pivotal.
With China and the United States making this a historic step, we now have 26 parties to the UNFCCC convention and 39% of global greenhouse gas emissions accounted for. Now we just need another 29 parties and 16% more. of global emissions to bring this Paris Agreement into force. And I really count on your strong support from the media. I urge all leaders, particularly including the leaders from G20 summit, to show their leadership by accelerating their domestic ratification processes so we can turn the aspiration of Paris into the transformative climate action the world so urgently needs. Legal processes must be concluded in parallel with a renewed commitment by all the countries to honor their pledges, particularly the OECD member states, in terms of financial and technical support, including through the Green Climate Fund, to many vulnerable countries, the developing countries, so that they can adjust their situation to climate change. We need to keep this momentum.
Leaders of the world's two largest economies take a stroll outside at Westlake State Guest House in Hangzhou, China. The walk ratifies the Paris Agreement to cut climate warming emissions, marking a major step towards the enactment of the pact as early as the end of the year, and setting the stage for other countries to follow suit. The world's two biggest emitters of greenhouse gases made the landmark announcement as heads of state from the groups of 20 biggest economies arrived for a summit in the city of Hangzhou, parts of which resembled a ghost town as Chinese security locked down the area. China has gone to great lengths to try to make the summit a success, hoping to cement its standing as a global power. Volunteer security agents prevented journalists from filming in deserted parts of the normally bustling city of 9 million people. But the two leaders have far more common interests than differences. Meeting with U.S. President Barack Obama in the eastern Chinese city of Hangzhou on the eve of the summit, President Xi said cooperation between China and the U.S. may lead to great things that are good to both countries and to the world as a whole. He said the two countries should follow the principles of non-conflict, non-confrontation, mutual respect, and win-win cooperation, deepen mutual trust and collaboration, and manage and control their differences in a constructive manner so as to enable bilateral relations to develop continuously, soundly, and stably. He also recalled the normalization process of Sino-U.S. relations in Hangzhou 44 years ago and spoke highly of his previous meetings with the U.S. president since 2013, saying that China and the U.S. have made substantial progress over the past 3 years in building a new type of major power relationship. He noted that the two-way trade, investment, and personnel exchanges have reached historical highs, and the two countries have also made important progress in fighting cybercrimes and Ebola in Africa, and in facilitating a comprehensive agreement on the Iranian nuclear issue. Mrs. Xi said China appreciates the cooperation and support offered by the United States in China's hosting of the G20 Hangzhou summit. The U.S. president, on the other hand, said the United States welcomes China's contribution to global development and the peacekeeping cause. The United States hopes to build stronger trade and investment relations with China and make joint efforts on wide-ranging fields, including regional and global security. Apart from strengthening cooperation, both leaders have agreed to manage and control in a constructive manner the differences between them. Let's go over the key points of the Paris Agreement. Now, the aim is to keep global temperature increase well below 2°C and to pursue efforts to limit it to 1.5°C. Leaders also agreed to peak greenhouse gas emissions as soon as possible and achieve a balance between sources and sinks of greenhouse gases in the second half of the century. The agreement will be reviewed every 5 years with $100 billion a year in climate finance for developing countries by 2020, with a commitment to further finance in the future. When the deal finally comes into effect, then countries that have ratified it will have to wait a minimum of 3 years before they leave. Still ahead on the program, the political crisis in Gabon worsens. Our analysis after the break. Do stay with us.